Good evening, colleagues, and our officer corps, and our public looking in on the streaming service. It's all this clever technology. We can all be in several places at once, can't we, almost? Very fragmented. But anyway, welcome to this meeting of Blackpool Council's Planning Committee. Item 1 on our programme and our agenda is for any member who has an interest to declare. Of the 7 of us, none. Thank you very much. And then if we can turn to the minutes of your last meeting on the 13th of April, would somebody propose them to be a true record? Thank you very much, Vice Chairman, and seconded by Councillor Robertson. So I sign them as a true record. Thank you. And then turning to item 3, planning and enforcement appeals lodged and determined, pages 5 and 8. These, of course, as usual, are for noting. You will have seen, obviously, the decision. I think is it one appeal that we won, and the other was dismissed. So it's a dismissal and one that's been lodged. Do we note those? Thank you. And then the update report enforcement again from public protection items, pages 9 to 12. Again, just for noting. Agreed? Item 6 on your agenda is a resume of our performance as a planning authority, and I think you'll see again that we are vastly surpassing the minimum standard laid down for us by Whitehall, and to get 100% is quite remarkable, because our planning team, and I say it repeatedly, gets smaller and smaller. And how they get through this mountain of work, I really don't know. Because as we've all noted, the planning reports are themselves quite a job to put together, having gone through all the consultation process and the analysis. I think they all do a sterling job, and I think it's an opportunity to note that and to ask Susan to pass on our appreciation to her little team. I know they're only words, but sometimes a pat on the back does help. So, item 7, and I think the officer concerned, Claire, is going to come in down the line, Claire Johnson, and she's going to introduce the item for us. Again, it's a very substantial piece of work, as the report shows, and I think you'll be not surprised that the recommendation is to approve, with a whole stack of conditions, of course.
Okay, good evening, Chairman, members. My name is Claire Johnson, and this is Susan Parker this evening. I'm sure members will be aware of the background, but the enterprise zone was approved by the DCLG in 2015. The site became operative in April 2016. The enterprise zone master plan has been subject to public consultation, has been formally adopted by both Blackpool and Fylde councils. The master plan makes a commitment to ensure that alongside the wider employment development, the playing field facilities at the enterprise zone meet the current and future sporting needs by creating an enhanced sporting hub. Furthermore, a key component of the recently adopted playing pitch strategy and associated action plan is the delivery of enhanced playing fields and sporting provision at the EZ. This application relates to just under 4 hectares of land at the southeast corner of the EZ, to the west of the South Shore Cricket, Squash and Rugby Club, and to the north of Division Lane West. The site is currently football and rugby pitches and informal car parking area. To the south of Division Lane West are 12 new football pitches which were approved in 2020, and these should be ready to come online later this year. The land is currently both green belt and public open space, although these designations are not proposed to be carried forward when the local plan part 2 is adopted. That document allocates this site as within the EZ. Just under half of the site is within Fylde, and the site is accessed from Fylde off Common Edge Road. In terms of constraints, the site's in Flood Zone 1, it's within the Airport Safeguarding Zone, and it's also within the impact zone of the Ribble and Alt Estuaries Special Protection Area. The application before members this evening seeks planning permission for the re-provision of a floodlit rugby pitch and rugby training pitch, a floodlit 3G or artificial grass pitch, and a single-storey building which will provide changing and ancillary facilities for these pitches and the 12 new pitches to the south. A car park's proposed for 94 cars, along with coach and cycle parking and improvements to the access from Common Edge Road. In terms of the principle of the development, national and local policy is supportive of outdoor recreational development in the green belt, where it doesn't compromise the openness of the green belt. As for the open space designation, playing fields shouldn't be developed on unless they are surplus to requirements, or they're to be replaced, or the development is for alternative sports and recreation provision. As explained in the officer report, it's considered that the proposal would not unacceptably impact on the openness of the green belt or the character of the open space. In any case, as previously stated, Part 2 of the local plan doesn't carry these designations forward and identifies the site within the enterprise zone. Developing the land to the north for employment uses is anticipated to come forward as a phase 3 application to develop the wider enterprise zone, and this would result in the loss of existing playing fields at Common Edge Road. And so this proposal, along with the 12 pitches to the south, would provide replaced and enhanced sporting provision, and that's in accordance with the requirements of paragraph 97 of the NPPF and Sport England's policy requirements. This development and the pitches to the south would serve as enabling development on the land to the north, so that the much needed employment uses and opportunities to diversify our economy can come forward. And these are key elements in the Council's strategy to deliver regeneration and reduce levels of deprivation. The playing pitch strategy identifies a need for a 3G pitch on this site, and the rugby pitch and training ground would replace existing facilities of the same size, albeit in a different location and orientation. Concerns have been raised by the Blackpool Scorpions Amateur Rugby Club, whose pitches are affected by the development, and the scheme has been amended to try and address some of those concerns raised by including storage facilities on the training ground and including floodlighting. The Scorpions' main pitch is on the cricket outfield to the east and is not within the application site boundary. However, this pitch will be moved slightly to the north in order to improve access to the application site and to provide floodlighting for that facility. The size of the rugby pitch would remain, it wouldn't be reduced in size. Cricket provision will be unaffected, but the cricket club users would have use of the proposed car park and coach parking facility, which will be located to the west of the existing clubhouse. In terms of the replacement changing facilities, the existing facilities of Jepson Way to the north are substandard and no longer fit for purpose. The replacement facilities in the new building will be more than twice the size and would include accessible changing rooms and facilities. The building itself will be well designed and faced in timber cladding and decorative brickwork and will be an attractive and welcoming to users of the facility. Following the submission of further details, Sport England have removed their objections, subject to conditions and confirmation in writing from the Rugby Football League national governing body that the 3G pitch proposed does not need to meet the requirements of Rugby League. Given the RFL have verbally confirmed that they don't require a 3G pitch in this location and that they have agreed to the content of the playing pitch strategy, it's not anticipated that the RFL will change this stance. Moving on to ecological matters, Natural England have also removed their objections following the submission of additional information, which concludes that the development would not have an adverse impact on the Ribble and Alt Estuaries, Ramsar and Special Protection Area site, subject to the implementation of mitigation measures in the submitted surface water drainage strategy, and this is dealt with by condition. A construction phase plan, biodiversity management plan, and an arboricultural impact assessment all outline mitigation measures to safeguard biodiversity on the site, and conditions are proposed which require landscaping and biodiversity enhancement measures, so no unacceptable biodiversity impacts are anticipated. Turning to highways matters, many of the objections received are concerned with highway safety. The highway consultants have worked closely with both highways authorities in Blackpool and Lancashire County Council in the design of the highway improvements. The highway works have been informed by a Stage 1 road safety audit and swept path analysis and have been agreed by Blackpool Council and Lancashire County Council. Improvements include widening the carriageway on Common Edge Road, incorporating a pedestrian refuge, and widening the access point off Division Lane West, amongst other technical works, further detailed further detailed design is required by condition to be agreed by Blackpool Council's Highway Authority and Lancashire County Council. With regards to parking, the highway documents submitted with the application confirm that the current facilities and cricket club are served by approximately 157 informal car parking spaces. The proposed car park will provide 194 marked out spaces, including accessible spaces, coach parking facilities and cycle stores. This provision meets the adopted car parking standards. There will be an interim period where the sports pitches to the south are brought on board before the new car parking facility on the site is available for use. A draft car park management scheme has been agreed in principle with Lancashire County Council, which outlines measures to prevent or address ad hoc parking on surrounding streets and encourages the continued use of the existing car park at Jepson Way until such time the new proposed car park is brought into use. The details include the delivery of a footpath to provide direct connection between the Jepson Way car park and the new sports pitches. A more detailed car park management strategy is required by condition, which will be agreed with Lancashire County Council to ensure that the users of the facilities during this interim period and in the longer term are encouraged to park appropriately and that any car parking issues can be managed and dealt with. In terms of water management, the site isn't currently served by a foul sewer, and so initially foul water from the changing rooms would be treated and drained on site, the details of which have been agreed by the Environment Agency until such time the site can connect to a foul sewer when the line to the north is built out. Flooding from the watercourse on Division Lane to the east has also been a source of objection to the scheme, and this issue has been highlighted by United Utilities. It's understood that these issues have now largely been resolved by the council. The applicant has submitted a flood risk and drainage strategy, which will form the basis of further detailed work. United Utilities have provided the wording for a condition, which outlines additional details to be agreed and subject to this condition. The development is not anticipated to have any unacceptable impacts relating to drainage or flood risk. The site is some distance from the nearest residential neighbours, and so no unacceptable impacts on residential amenity are anticipated. A safeguarding assessment confirms proposed floodlights would not infringe on safeguarded areas for the airport, and the development would be highly unlikely to create an unsafe flying environment for Blackpool Airport. The site would be visible from Marton Moss Conservation Area, but would not harm its character or setting, and this view is shared by the Built Heritage Manager. Further objections have been received in relation to increased litter, potential higher charges for the pitches, but these are management issues rather than planning issues, and how clubs fund themselves are not material planning consideration. However, a condition requiring the submission of a community use agreement, which will be agreed with Sport England, would contain details of how the facilities will be managed, the pricing policy and the hours of use, etc. So to conclude, the benefits of the scheme of enhanced sporting facilities and the enablement of employment development to come forward on land to the north are considered to weigh significantly in favour of the scheme, and any outstanding matters can be agreed or controlled by condition. However, given that the Rugby Football League have not yet confirmed in writing that the proposed 3G pitch does not need to be designed to meet the requirements of rugby, which is a requirement of Sport England, and withdrawing their objection, members are respectively recommended to resolve to support the proposal and delegate the Head of Development Management to grant planning permission subject to these matters being resolved, or deferral from the Secretary of State and subject to conditions listed in the report and the update note.
That's a massive report and an equally impressive presentation of the report. Clearly, it's a piece of work that Blackpool needs for its sporting offer. And there is just the one little fly in the ointment, which is the good old Rugby Football League. And I suppose we've probably had a good nod of the head that the letter will be coming. But there it is, colleagues. We are recommended to indicate our approval to the scheme and for a decision to be delegated. Sorry? Sorry, yeah, we've got a speaker. I'm only introducing it because clearly colleagues might have some wish to speak on it. I don't think anybody's going to be strongly disapproving it, but please come in. Does anybody indicate? Yeah, come in there, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I think the scheme itself is a great scheme and it's much needed for the area. What does concern me is how far the traffic management plan went when looking at it, because Common Edge Road, since the closure of Radar Road and the link out to the motorway, has become incredibly congested for most of the day. And I'm just wondering how this, with the building works, is going to impact on that over the development time, and what is going to be done at the end of it to try to alleviate some of that when these pictures are in use. Thank you, Chair.
Jen,
Yeah, we've got a member of the public, have we, wanting to come in? The applicant's agent, colleagues, Claire Parker, is coming in, I think.
a planning consultant at Kathleen Ashton, who have acted as the planners and the architects for this application. The application before you tonight represents a significant step forward for Blackpool Airport Enterprise Zone and consists of the provision of improved community sports facilities to replace existing and create space for future development. The application comprises a new 3G pitch, replacement grass rugby pitch and training ground, new changing facility and spectator building, and an extended and reconfigured car park with access taken from Common Edge Road. These new facilities, alongside the grass football pitches to the south of Division Lane, which were approved by Blackpool Council in August 2020, will enable the complete replacement of existing sports pitches and associated facilities at the Enterprise Zone. To provide context, the approval of this application will allow for the submission of a planning application for the redevelopment of land to the north of this application site for new employment, residential and ancillary uses, as well as associated highways infrastructure, supporting the overall vision for the Enterprise Zone as set out within the adopted master plan and emerging local planning policy. As set out within the officer's report to committee, whilst the proposals will result in the loss of protected playing fields, they are to be replaced with new playing fields which represent an improvement in both quantity and quality above the existing. It should be noted that the current designations for the existing sports fields, including greenbelt and public open space, have not been carried forward into the publication Local Plan Part 2 document, which, whilst not yet adopted, does indicate the future intentions for development within the borough. Emerging Policy DM8 specifically refers to the Enterprise Zone and supports the relocation and enhancement of the existing playing pitches and associated changing facilities. The master plan for the Enterprise Zone also makes a commitment to ensuring that the playing field and pitch facilities meet current and future sporting needs. As detailed discussions have taken place with Blackpool's planning policy team throughout the determination process, it is considered that the proposals wholly align with the findings of the recently adopted playing pitch strategy, which assesses these needs. It's acknowledged that a number of local representations have been made in respect of the application, with concerns primarily regarding matters of sports provision, highways and drainage. It is considered that all three matters have been thoroughly reviewed, assessed and accepted by the relevant technical consultees, as the design team have sought to work collaboratively with all relevant parties. In respect of sports provision, extended discussions have taken place between ourselves, the Council's leisure team, who will ultimately be managing the facilities, and the Council's planning policy team to respond positively to Sport England. This has ultimately resulted in Sport England's initial objection being withdrawn, and the conditions proposed by Sport England in respect of this application are accepted by the applicant. The application is considered to meet paragraph 97C of the MPPF and exceptions 4 and 5 of Sport England policy, in that the proposed replacement provision is of a better quality and quantity in a suitable location and of sufficient benefit to outweigh the loss of the current use. Our extensive discussions with Sport England has meant this position has been more than robustly tested. In terms of highways matters, this has again been subject to extended discussions between the applicant's transport consultant and Blackpool and LCC highways officers. Ultimately, the details have been accepted by the relevant consultees, including drawings of the improvement works to the access point of Division Lane and Common Edge Road, a Stage 1 road safety audit, and draft car park management strategy. Again, the applicant is accepting of conditions as set out within the committee update note. Finally, in respect of drainage, detailed drawings of the proposed surface water and foul water drainage for the site of the car park and changing facility have been submitted as part of this application. Further detail has been proposed to be conditioned, and the work associated with providing this detail is currently underway. As a driver of this development, the Council's enterprise zone team, are keen, should the application be approved tonight, to push ahead with the scheme in the immediate short term. Overall, the proposals represent the provision of new sports facilities, which will ultimately support the wider aims of the enterprise zone as an area of employment development by enabling the existing sports fields to the north to be developed upon. This future development will provide economic benefits to the borough, which is in need of employment land to meet future requirements and to diversify the economy. The current application, alongside the previous approval for grass pitches, represents a new hub for sporting provision, betterment in the existing provision with modern, well-managed and accessible facilities for the use by the community, which will also aid in promoting healthy lifestyles. On this basis, we fully endorse the recommendations of the planning officer and would ask that the committee accept their recommendation for approval. Thank you.
It does now, thank you, Chair.
Will speak up and not use the microphone, but they'll tell me then that unless I use the microphone, the folk out there won't be able to hear me, which is all very distressing when one can command a fair volume, but never mind. Still have to have it on. Vice Chairman? No, you're happy?
No, just proposing what had been suggested by Claire.
It is to
Subject
delegate, to indicate our approval,
yeah,
but to delegate
subject to
the
all
decision.
the conditions that we've accepted.
Is that seconded? Thank you very much. Put it to the vote. All in favour, please show. Oh, the applicant has got his way unanimously. Everybody breathes a sigh of relief. We've got one through. Right, can we then turn to the next planning application? I think we've got a member of the public to bring in. Is that right, Lance? No?
Yes, I've done Mr. White to join the meeting.
Mr. White. So this is item 8 on your agenda, application for a major hotel development on Leopold Road, Leopold Grove and Adelaide Street. And again, I think it's Claire who's going to introduce the subject for us.
Hello again. Can you hear me? Okay, this application relates to a temporary surface level car park with around 80 pay and display spaces and 2 cleared sites to the east of Winter Gardens on land bound by Adelaide Street, Leopold Grove, Alfred Street and properties fronting Church Street. The application site measures approximately 3,100 square metres and abuts the town centre boundary. It's within town centre conservation area and forms part of the setting of the Grade 2 listed buildings, Grade 2 star listed Winter Gardens. The application is for outline permission for the scale, layout and access for a 5-storey hotel and a split level car park with the matters of appearance and landscaping reserved for future consideration. There have been several applications approved for hotel development in various guises on the site, going back as far as 1999. And the most recent approval in 2018 was in outline form relating to scale only for a Part 3, 4 and 5 storey 203 bed hotel with a lower ground floor car park with 62 car parking spaces. That application included land to the north following the demolition of properties on Alfred Street and Leopold Grove. The previously approved hotel proposals on the site involved a hotel covering the whole site between Leopold Grove and Alfred Street with lower ground floor car parking. The proposal before members this evening is for a hotel on approximately 1/3 of the site along the Leopold Grove frontage, with the Alfred Street side comprising a lower and upper ground floor secure car park with 94 spaces. The hotel would have up to 160 bedrooms. The car park would have 47 spaces, including 10 accessible spaces on the lower ground floor, accessed off Adelaide Street, and 47 spaces on the upper ground floor, accessed off Alfred Street. The 2018 application that was approved was for a hotel with 203 bedrooms and 63 parking spaces. So this proposal will provide a better bedroom to car park ratio with 21% fewer rooms and 33% more car parking capacity than previously approved. Vehicle drop-off would take place in a dedicated bay off Adelaide Street, adjacent to the main pedestrian entrance, and there'd be a second entrance and lobby off Leopold Grove. The application makes reference to a potential bridge link at the second floor, which will connect to the conference centre over Leopold Grove, but the bridge doesn't form part of this application, but it might come forward for consideration at a later date. The hotel will be approximately 19 metres tall at its highest point to the south, fronting Adelaide Street, which is similar to the scheme previously approved under the first application in 1999. To the north, adjacent properties fronting Church Street, the hotel will be between 15 and 16 metres tall, which is about 5 metres taller than previously approved. The previously approved scheme from 2018. The hotel would have a flat roof, but the difference in height around the development is a result of the existing changes in land levels as the site drops quite considerably from the northeast to the southwest. The principle of hotel development of between 3 and 6 stories on the site has already been established with the granting of various permissions over the last 12 years. But in any case, new hotel development on the edge of the town centre accords with local and national policies in principle. The development would have the greatest impact on residential amenity to the apartments to the north at 115 Church Street in terms of outlook and light. The northern elevation of the proposed hotel would be approximately 16 metres tall and approximately 3.5 metres away from the southern elevation of that property, and would impact on windows to a study in the basement, a bedroom on the ground floor and an ensuite bathroom at first floor. The study and ensuite aren't habitable rooms, and it's considered that any development of any scale at all would have a similar impact on the bedroom window at ground floor. Excuse me. There is a roof terrace adjacent to the proposed development, which currently has views over the car park at Leopold Grove. The hotel will be approximately 3 metres taller than the terrace, but would be 3.5 metres away, and the terrace would still have open aspect and views over Leopold Grove, so this relationship is considered to be acceptable. Conditions relating to servicing hours, details of rooftop plans and obscure glazing on the north elevation of the hotel will protect neighbour amenity in terms of privacy and noise and disturbance. No other impacts on residential amenity have been identified, subject to the imposition of conditions. In terms of the development's visual impact in its historic setting, the Council has a duty to ensure that new development preserves or enhances the character and appearance of conservation areas and listed buildings. The detailed design of the elevations are reserved matter, and the submitted street scene plans are indicative only and serve to demonstrate the maximum scale and massing of the hotel in relation to neighbouring properties, including the Winter Gardens. The current car park and cleared site to the north have a negative impact on the setting of the Winter Gardens and the character of the conservation area, and the hotel development presents the opportunity to enhance that setting, subject to detailed design and landscaping. The layout of the development is for consideration with the application, and the layout plans show that there will be a double height hotel lounge and cafe facing the rear of the Winter Gardens and Conference Centre, providing an active frontage along the majority of Leopold Grove. The design and access statement refers to the use of good quality materials and confirms the building design will be influenced by Blackpool's Art Deco heritage and will include strong geometry, horizontal and vertical elements and bays to achieve a contemporary building of its time and place, which sits comfortably within its heritage setting. Although landscaping is a reserved matter, indicative plans show opportunities to provide green infrastructure over and around the car park, including tree planting, which will provide green infrastructure in a very urbanised part of the town centre. Historic England considered that the development would have a positive impact, which would conserve and enhance the significance of the heritage assets, subject to detailed design and use of materials and landscaping. Moving on to highways consideration, the site is within a highly accessible location, which is well served by public transport and close to shops, attractions and facilities. The proposal would result in the loss of 80 public car parking spaces and a loss of 5 parking spaces on Alfred Street in order to provide access and visibility space for the upper level car park. Whilst this weighs against the scheme, the development itself shouldn't increase parking pressures off-site, as the 94 spaces is considered sufficient to serve the development, especially when considering secure cycle storage would be provided and the travel plan outlines measures to encourage travel by non-car modes. In any case, given its prominent location on the edge of the town centre and next to the Winter Gardens, this site has only ever had a temporary permission to be a car park until such time as the site could be redeveloped. Furthermore, the council is committed to provide additional car parking capacity within the town centre, and the former syndicate site to the north is allocated as a multi-storey car park in the emerging local plan part 2. Excuse me. Significant highway works will be required to provide vehicle access and drop-off points, and these details will be agreed by condition. Various stopping up orders, traffic regulation orders will also be required and agreed by the council as highway authority. In terms of servicing, the existing service alley of Leopold Grove would remain, but this is unsuitable for larger vehicles, and there will be times when Leopold Grove is closed to vehicles when the conference centre is in use. Therefore, the vast majority of servicing will take place off Alfred Street via the upper level of the car park, and this is secured by condition. Surface water drainage details have been submitted, which indicate the site can be sustainably drained whilst reducing surface water discharge rates by 30%, and the detailed design would be agreed by condition. The application site is hard surface with no habitat features for protected species. However, the proposed development will provide opportunities to include ecological enhancements through landscaping and other measures which will be agreed by condition. A sustainability statement confirms that the detailed design would achieve BREEAM certification to ensure that the building meets various environmental standards and is sustainable, and the requirement for the development to achieve BREEAM Very Good is included in the conditions. In terms of the economic benefits, a hotel of this size would offer many employment opportunities which don't currently exist, with the site currently being used as a car park, and hotel guests would bring further economic benefits in supporting town centre businesses. Providing good quality hotel accommodation opposite the conference centre also weighs in favour of the proposal. To conclude, the scheme represents a major investment in the existing tourism and emerging conference industry and will contribute towards the regeneration objectives set out in the core strategy and the priorities of the council plan, and would support the wider regeneration efforts in and around the town centre. Therefore, the officer recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions set out in the committee report.
Thank you very much, Claire. Again, you need plenty of water when you're giving these these appraisals. Well done. I think we can now bring in, he's down as an objector. I'm sure he's here to make representations to us. Mr. Ian White.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Claire, for the presentation you've delivered. Having previously supported the application, and still supporting it, I would mainly like to bring forward the condition that the way that the ratio between car parking and rooms is now far better than it had been in the past, and that is very much appreciated. There are a lot more pressures since the previous application on other parking within the direct area, with the medical centre bounding South King Street, Adelaide Street, and Alfred Street, putting a lot more pressure on the existing parking spaces open to the public, plus the loss of the 80 spaces. So you're pushing car parking away from those sort of areas. And I appreciate that that there is a multi-story proposed for the old syndicate site. So that the reason I'm commenting is that when it comes to the full application, there should not be any downscaling of parking ratio between bed space and car parks, so that there is no further negative impact on the area. If that was the case, then it would negatively impact on the existing hotel and B&B stock, which includes a lot of Stay Blackpool members. So I'm just making the point that we need to keep up the positivity that has been introduced with this this application, with this change to the application. But that's basically all I'd like to say, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. White. It's always interesting to get some observations from people in the vicinity of the development and engaged in the tourism industry. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution. Susan, did you want to come in at all? Are you happy with the presentation and what's been told us?
No, I am, Chair, thank you. The only comment I would make that even though this is an outline application, it is to agree the fundamentals of the scheme, which are your access, layout and scale. So the only matters for later consideration are appearance and landscaping, so that wouldn't affect the parking ratios.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is, of course, an outline application. I think we've got to stress that. And we're concerned only tonight with the the heading on your application there, the massing of the building, its height. The rest, the really heavy stuff, will come in a little later. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've just got a couple of questions. First one, the parking on the two-storey car park that's being built beside the hotel. Is that solely used for the hotel, or is that for general use to the public as well?
Can I defer to Claire?
It will solely be for use by the hotel.
Okay, that's answered my question. Thank you very much. And the second question I have is the design on the front entrance above it. All these different colour, are they cladding or windows on the main entrance? I don't know if you can see it. That's just an observation for me.
What's the question you're asking?
The question is that cladding or is that the colour of the windows on the main entrance?
It is entirely illustrative. It probably won't.
I would just say that appearance is a reserved matter, so that will be looked at the next stage.
Please come in.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually standing in for a fellow councillor who couldn't make it tonight. So this is the first time I've seen this. I know generally what a green roof is, but can it be explained what it actually is here with this building, what the green roof is, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I can come in there. The details will be agreed by condition. Landscaping is not for consideration here, but generally a green roof, it will be laid to grass with wildflowers, or you can use succulents. You can use a whole range of species that can live in very, very shallow substrate. A green roof helps with surface water attenuation, also provides benefits for biodiversity. But like I say, the scheme, the landscaping scheme, including the green roof, is just indicative, just explaining what could come forward.
Because I notice as well, if you don't mind me carrying on just a little bit, there are proposals for possibly 3 structures on the green roof. So that's going to sort of interfere with perhaps some of the structure of the building itself. Because I'm always worried about flat roofs. I've had terrible experience with flat roofs in the past, horror stories. And I just wonder what has been taken into consideration regarding having a flat roof on this hotel.
It might well be that it's not a flat roof. This is just the maximum scale, the massing. That's what we're agreeing. When reserve matters come in, it might have a pitched roof.
Right.
So it's just indicative.
But as I've excused the pun, that puts a different slant on it then. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody else? We're agreeing the principle of this development of that size, the size of the building, the number of bedrooms, and the car parking provision, and all the other issues which have been rehearsed in the report. So it is before you for approval as an outline application. Is anybody willing to move that we support it? Vice Chairman? And yeah, count. So it's moved by the Vice Chairman and it's supported by Councillor Robertson. Would those in favour please show? Again, a unanimous decision. Thank you very much for that. Very important decision. And thank you, Claire, for introducing it to us. I think you can put your glass of water down now. Thank you very much indeed for helping us. And finally, colleagues, or nearly finally, we turn to Squiresgate Lane, the industrial estate application for use as a storage facilities for up to 67 wagons. Is this for you, Susan?
So I'm finally going to do something.
Oh, you lucky person. Yeah. Please present the report.
Thank you, Chairman. I think members may be aware of this site. It has been a subject of long-standing now. The application is retrospective and, as you say, it's for use of the site as a contractor's depot. On site, there are sizable storage bays for aggregates and materials, parking for 67 wagons, a building and welfare cabins, a concrete batching plant and associated parking. The site does fall within the boundaries of the enterprise zone and it's on land that is designated for industrial and employment uses, but there are sports grounds to the east with residential accommodation beyond. The use of a smaller area of the site was implemented originally in August 2019 without authorisation. An application was then lodged in November 2019, but the scheme was considered to be unacceptable, and so that application was withdrawn. And a number of changes have been made on the site since then, including the relocation of the cement plant away from the eastern boundary where it was closest to the residential properties, extension of the site to the west on what was the old Calagas site, and the relocation of the HGV parking and the cement plant to this area. An increase in the number of wagon bays from 63 to 67, and an increase in staff and vehicle parking from 17 to 37. Now, as members I'm sure will have seen from the report, the proposal has been extremely contentious and subject to objection from both local residents and our consultees. A significant objection has been received from the Environment Agency relating to the use of non-mains foul drainage, which poses a pollution risk, and the management of waste. Whilst an environmental permit for screening and crushing of waste has been granted by the EA, they have expressed significant concern regarding the operations based on the number of complaints they have received. And the EA have clarified that it cannot generally refuse a permit on amenity grounds, and so the granting of a permit shouldn't be taken as an indication that amenity is not an issue. The EA note that they have not yet received adequate information in relation to noise and vibration to satisfy their concerns. The Council's Environmental Protection team have also been involved with this site since works began, and they have also raised concerns about the operation. EP have suggested that an acoustic fence be installed and that all noisy operations are moved as far as possible from the residential properties, and also that operations be limited to 9 to 6 Monday to Friday and 9 until 1 in the afternoon on a Saturday with no work outside of these hours. And we do understand that these restrictions are not acceptable to the applicant and their business model. Further objection has been received from the lead local flood authority on the basis that the watercourse to the south cannot cope with a level of discharge of 50 litres per second and that the use is likely to exacerbate flooding off-site. And finally, the enterprise zone manager has objected on the basis that the use is likely to dissuade operators from locating on the EZ due to the level of noise, dust and vibration that it generates, and as such the scheme is considered to undermine the fundamental objectives of the EZ designation. Members will also see that there has been significant public objection, and this raises the issues of light pollution, noise, air, water and land pollution, visual impact, increased traffic and impact on the EZ. Now, it's acknowledged that the use is industrial in nature and so would ordinarily be considered to be acceptable in principle in an employment area, and it's also recognised that the use generates employment and supports wider industries. However, in this instance, the conflict with the objectives of the enterprise zone would generate greater economic harm than could be justified by the benefit of the active employment use. And when this is weighed against the issues relating to residential amenity, drainage and environmental pollution, the planning balance is very strongly against planning permission being granted. On this basis, members are respectfully recommended to refuse planning permission for the reasons given in the officer's report, which relate to impact on the employment designation and enterprise zone, impact on amenity from noise, dust and unsociable operating times, and water pollution and increased risk of flooding. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Susan. Does any member wish to contribute? Councillor Stansfield.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, having read the report and seen the objections which have been raised, plus knowing what the feeling is with the local community that have also been voicing opinions outside of the official channels, and from what our case officer has just said now, I feel that there is no other option but to refuse this on the grounds which are stated in the report, and I would be happy to propose that.
It simply requires me to note with you the date of our next meeting. I must say it's nice to be back and feel each other's presence, and poor Claire there at the end of a little camera, no matter how much she's sunburnt and looking a real picture, I think it's much nicer that we can meet together in a real way, and certainly I find it a lot easier to chair a meeting this way than we've become sadly used to. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance, and the meeting stands adjourned.